Looking back now, I can see how my life went off the rails that morning. I was 12, going to Yancey Academy, a boarding school tucked in the hills of upstate New York. They called it a school for troubled kids. Translation, if you didn't fit anywhere else, if you were too restless, too different, well, they sent you there and hoped you'd survive. And I had survived, mostly by being lucky in all the wrong ways. Dyslexia, ADHD, a tendency to attract trouble like bees to honey. Let's just say I wasn't exactly the model student. But I wasn't dumb, not really. I processed things differently. Teachers didn't like that. They called it lazy or careless. My mom worried endlessly. And my best friend, Grover Underwood, spent most of our school days worrying about me. That spring, we had a field trip to the Metropolitan Museum of Art in Manhattan. The sky that morning was a heavy gray, like someone had pulled a blanket over the city and drizzle streaked the windows. Inside, chaos reigned. Kids shouted, threw paper balls, swapped snacks they weren't supposed to have, and I sat near the back, bracing for disaster. Because with me, disaster had a way of finding me. Always. Grover sat beside me, thin, pale, and twitchy as ever. He was the kind of kid who seemed allergic to confrontation. Across the aisle, Nancy Bobofit waited, red-haired, freckled, permanently smug. She thrived on tormenting kids smaller than her, and Grover had been her favorite target for weeks. Already that morning, she was tossing chunks of her peanut butter and ketchup sandwich at him, each blob of bread hit with surgical precision. "Cut it out, Nancy," I muttered, already tense. She blinked at me, eyes wide, as if innocence itself had taken form. "What? I didn't do anything." Grover tugged at my sleeve. "Please don't, Percy, not today." But I couldn't ignore her. I never could. At the front of the bus, Mr. Brunner wheeled along. Our Latin teacher. Scruffy beard, thick glasses, tweed jacket, wheelchair. The kind of teacher that made you think there might be a whole world in the classroom you hadn't noticed. He had that rare kind of presence, the kind that made you want to listen, even when the rest of the class didn't. "Class," he shouted above the noise, "today's field trip is important. You will see relics that connect to our lessons and, if you pay attention, perhaps to the world you think you know. Stay alert." Few kids paid attention. Most rolled their eyes or whispered about Pokemon cards. I tried. I wanted to. The museum itself was enormous, filled with echoes that bounced off marble floors and polished columns. Statues lined the halls, gods, warriors, monsters frozen in mid-motion, their eyes blank, yet somehow watching. I remember thinking how alive the carvings felt, as if they waited for someone to disturb the stillness. Mr. Brunner stopped us before a frieze depicting the Olympians defeating the Titans. His pen hovered, tracing imaginary lines in the air as he spoke. "Observe these figures," he said, "the Olympians, not mere myth, but forces, ideas, powers that shaped the world. These carvings represent the foundation of Western civilization." Half the class ignored him. Nancy yawned theatrically. Some whispered. Others tried to sneak snacks without getting caught. But I leaned in, trying to absorb it, because for once I wanted to understand something fully. And then Nancy struck again. She tipped the rest of her lunch into Grover's lap. Bread, mustard, ketchup, all of it. He squeaked, spluttering, and tried to clean himself, face burning bright red. I snapped. Without thinking, I shoved Nancy. Splash! She toppled backward into the fountain, water flying in all directions, plastering her hair to her freckled face. Her shriek echoed through the gallery. The class gasped. Fingers pointed. "He did it! Percy pushed her!" Nancy shrieked, "He pushed me!" Perfect timing. Of course. I braced for Mr. Brunner's disapproval, but he wheeled up to me with that calm, unreadable look he always had. Stay with the group, Mr. Jackson. This trip is important. Important. I didn't understand what he meant then. Then came Mrs. Dodds. Ah, Mrs. Dodds. Pre-algebra teacher, permanent scowl, leather jacket, sharp nose. She looked at you like you'd personally offended her before you even opened your mouth. From the moment I first met her, I knew she hated me. "Mr. Jackson," she hissed, "a word, now." Grover went pale. He looked at me like I'd just been sentenced. Nancy, still dripping wet from the fountain, cackled, "You're in trouble, Jackson." Mrs. Dodds led me away, clicking down the long museum halls. The further we walked, the darker and emptier the galleries became. Statues seemed to lean closer, as if listening. Finally, she stopped, spinning to face me in an abandoned gallery. Her expression twisted cruelly. "Confess, Percy Jackson, do you think you can get away with it?" "With what?" I stammered. And then she changed. Her skin shriveled, her body twisted, wings erupted from her back, fingers curling into claws. Her face became monstrous, her eyes glowing red. This wasn't Mrs. Dodds anymore. This was a creature from some nightmare. She lunged. I stumbled backward, frozen with fear. Then, a shout. "Percy! Catch!" Mr. Brunner's voice. A pen flew through the air. I caught it. Ordinary, at first. Then it grew, stretching into a bronze sword that fit perfectly in my hands. Mrs. Dodds screamed, lunged at me, and instinct took over. I swung. The blade sliced through her. She disintegrated into golden dust, leaving nothing but the echo of her shriek. The sword shrank back into a pen. I dropped it, trembling. I returned to the group. My classmates stared blankly. Nancy, still dripping wet, frowned. "Where's Mrs. Dodds?" Blank stares. "We never had a teacher named Dodds," Nancy said. Grover avoided my eyes. Mr. Brunner continued lecturing as if nothing had happened. But I knew. I had seen. And from that moment, I understood the world I thought I knew was hiding secrets far bigger than any math problem, any field trip, any teacher. That day, everything changed, and I would never be the same. Looking back, I realized that nothing in my life had been truly ordinary, not even for a moment. After the events at the museum, my world had tilted on its axis, though I didn't fully understand how or why. I was 12 years old then, but in hindsight, it felt like the universe had been quietly testing me, preparing me for something far bigger than school, pre-algebra, or mean kids. After the museum trip, life tried to go on as usual, though nothing about it felt normal. My mom, Sally Jackson, met me at the door with her usual warmth and smile, the kind that could make almost any disaster seem manageable. That day, however, I couldn't meet her gaze. How could I explain what had happened with Mrs. Dodds? How could anyone believe me? Grover and I walked home through the streets of Manhattan, the city bustling with its usual chaos. Street vendors shouted over car horns, pigeons scattered at our feet, and the smell of pretzels and hot dogs hung in the air. It should have been ordinary. It shouldn't have made my stomach twist into knots, but it did. And then I saw them. 3 old women sitting on the corner of the street, hunched over their knitting. At first glance, they seemed harmless, just little old ladies killing time. But there was something off. Their needles clicked together in a rhythm too fast, too precise. The yarn twisted and turned in ways that didn't make sense, forming patterns that almost seemed alive. "Percy, do you see them?" Grover whispered, voice trembling. I froze. "Yeah," I said, though I wasn't sure why I could see it so clearly. They weren't just knitting socks. I don't think I knew exactly what they were knitting at the time, only that it felt like the end of the world. Their tiny, gnarled hands moved impossibly fast, shaping dark patterns, and I could feel the weight of some terrible, invisible power pressing down. "Go, Percy," Grover said urgently. "We need to keep moving. Don't stop." I wanted to, though. I wanted to look, to understand. But the knot in my stomach screamed at me to run. We hurried past, eyes forward, heart hammering. The old women didn't look up, didn't speak, didn't even seem aware of us. Their knitting continued, relentless, like they were weaving something that the entire world depended on. I didn't understand then. I barely understand now. But I knew that day, without knowing why, that the world was bigger than anything I had imagined. And it was dangerous. School itself didn't get any easier after that. Yancey Academy, despite its attempts at normalcy, had cracks in the facade I had never noticed before. Hallways seemed longer, shadows seemed to linger longer, and some teachers looked at me like they knew things I didn't know. By the next morning, I was already uneasy. My backpack felt unusually heavy, though it was the same books as always. The sun struggled to break through the clouds, casting the city in a dull, gray light. I trudged through the halls, hoping that today would be ordinary, that nothing strange would happen. But it never is. During homeroom, I first noticed them again. 3 old women sitting silently at a corner of the classroom, knitting. Not the same ones from the street, but the energy surrounding them felt identical, a quiet, relentless tension. Their needles clicked together in perfect rhythm. Their eyes seemed to follow me even when I tried to focus on the teacher. I tried to ignore them, hoping it was just my imagination, but their presence pressed against me, a slow, insistent reminder that something terrible was unfolding. The day dragged on. Classes passed, though I could barely concentrate. Every time I blinked, I saw the movement of the needles in my mind. The sock patterns haunted me, weaving themselves into my thoughts, reminding me that the world I thought I knew was full of dangers I could never have imagined. Even lunch offered no respite. Grover whispered nervously about the old women, about the patterns, about fate, but I had no answers. We ate quickly, barely speaking, glancing over our shoulders every few moments. The other students were oblivious. The normal world continued, as if nothing extraordinary existed. But I knew better. By the time the last bell rang, signaling the end of school, my stomach ached from tension and fear. Walking home felt different now. Every corner, every shadow seemed alive with something I couldn't yet name. The knitting women, the museum, Mrs. Dodds, all of it was connected. I didn't know how, but I could feel it threading through my life like invisible yarn. That night, I lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling. My mind raced with what I had seen, what I had felt. I thought about the museum, about the sword that had appeared from a pen, about the 3 old ladies, and about the fact that no one else seemed to notice any of it. I realized, lying there in the dark, that the world I had known, the ordinary world of school, homework, and bored classmates, had ended the day Mrs. Dodds appeared. From that moment on, nothing would ever be normal again. And in that quiet, anxious stillness, I understood one thing clearly. My life was about to get very, very dangerous.